Hello, my name's Barry James and I'm the founder of the Crowdfunding Centre, and more importantly, as far as today is concerned, the Crowd Data Centre. We collect data on crowdfunds, both equity crowdfunds and rewards-based crowdfunds from around the world at a rate of we want to monitor around 20 to 25,000 campaigns every day, with usually more than 500 new crowdfunds coming on every day. And so we're up to almost 150,000 crowdfunds so far this year. One of the big surprises was that in Q2, London, when we looked at the data, clearly came out as a real contender for World Capital of Crowdfunding, which surprised us as much as it did everyone else. And news of this went around the world. But it's perhaps not so surprising when you realise that the UK is growing at a faster rate than anywhere else, outstripping other countries, including the USA. So in that context, perhaps not quite so surprising. As we continue to wrangle with regulators, particularly over equity crowdfunding, crowdfunding itself is growing rapidly around the world and spreading rapidly around the world, and is making seed funding work for the first time. So one of the clear observations that we've been able to make via the State of the Crowdfunding Nation reports, when we've analysed this data, is that although there's a lot of excitement, and quite rightly, about equity crowdfunding, rewards-based crowdfunding, as it's called, is providing seed funding in a way that's never before been seen. In fact, has never been before been possible, even though it's been attempted by many governments within Europe and elsewhere. And this is phenomenal. It's self-seeding, it's transforming and democratizing the creation of jobs and new businesses. So this is something that's transformative for the world economy. In fact, via our Q2 report just published, we've been able to document that crowdfunding's reached over 160 of the 196 or so countries worldwide, just over 80% of the total. Given that the remaining countries are most of the smaller ones, we can see that just over 90% of the population has access to the crowdfunding worldwide. So the crowd is this is empowering the crowd. It's new funding, a whole new entrepreneurial ecosystem thriving within the mainstream economy and destined to change it forever. It's gone viral. It's worldwide. Now, where these interactive maps that we're looking at right now have helped is that up till now it's proved remarkably difficult to convey the full force of what's happening and the existing and potential impact of crowdfunding in all its forms. In truth, it matters little whether London is a little ahead or behind of New York or Copenhagen. Interest, motivation, action, and therefore impact are what matters, and they matter enormously. Or rather, the interest it raises when we do these things. In our analysis, the biggest single factor in the impact that crowdfunding can make is awareness and acceptance. People, and especially decision makers in Parliament, government, and elsewhere, taking it seriously. And benchmarking, which is what we're now doing a lot, is compelling for people. People like it and respond. curiosity about what's happening around you and comparing it to what's happening elsewhere is as natural for law and decision makers as it is for us all. So let's take a look at the interactive maps we've now launched, and they're providing a major focus of attention, and the ranking and stats and benchmarking around it that are proving compelling. Let's take a tour of the atlas we recently published. You can download it here, by the way, which is at thecrowdfundingcentre.com/mapping. That's MAPPING. So let's start with the USA. As you can see, 15,000, very nearly 14,969, in fact, live projects there, right across the USA. And immediately we can see there's a huge amount of activity massed on the coasts, and quite a bit less in the middle there, which is kind of notable in itself. We'll be able to zoom in a bit further and see what's going on with that in a few moments. But you know, lots of activity. Much less of it in the middle, but with the coasts and spreading in, for particularly from the east coast. So on to the next one. And this is a world map by country of projects completing during Q2. And as you can see, obliterated there, the UK is a big centre with some comparatively big numbers. Particularly outside of the United States, there's quite a lot of activity right around the world, quite a lot in Europe, lots in America, and so we can see the spread, some notable numbers there. 10,000 North America, 10,000 plus, that is, and we start to get a feel for some of the numbers and the sizes in Europe, Australia, and elsewhere too. So this next map is the distribution of successful projects across the world again, and it's just interesting to see how they're distributed too. Lots of spread, lots of activity in the US and the UK and parts of Europe. And zooming in a bit, this is what that looks like. We can see, again, difficult to see exactly in the UK though. If this was live, would be probably zooming in a bit further, but that will give you a good feel for the spread across Europe. And of course we can see Denmark there, a bit underrepresented, so lots of opportunity for Copenhagen and Denmark. So back to the States here, and we can start to drill down a bit, and here we can see again the successes spread around there during Q2, and we can zoom on further. Let's do that now. And again we can see that the east coast there is pretty much awash with red from those projects, but still really interesting to see where the clusters are, how it's clustering, and the way that's developing. There's lots more that we can see as we zoom on in through these maps. So let's go in a bit further, and we can see right down to city and level and beyond. The way that those projects are distributed, what the activity is, and so on. And we can drill down and look in particular places, New York City in this case, at this project, designated there. So 566, and if we were live, we could click through and look at those projects and see what kind they are, and so on. So let's look into that and the key stats. So we can see here that 14 live projects, new projects each day in New York City. That's a lot. And the success rate is around 40%, which is very good, quite high. And you can see some comparatives there as well. And you can see that on average, projects in New York City had about 103 contributors. Again, high. This can be as low as 20 or 30. 50 is a good score. 100 is a very good score. And the average amount raised was almost $20,000, with well over $10 million, I should say, raised for projects in New York City in this quarter, which ran from April to June. Clicking through from there, we can see the trending projects again in New York City in that period, and there's a whole variety. We have 36 different categories, so you can see everything and select everything from tech to dance to design and so on. Tech and design being two of the big categories. In this case, obviously, theatre, film, and so on are big subjects for New York City, which is perhaps unsurprising. One of the things that tends to be apparent when we look at this mapping is that certain places have great specialisms, others like London and probably New York to an extent tend to have a much wider portfolio of expertise. We can look too, along with the maps, at the ranking tables. So we can see that in terms of locations, Los Angeles is in a clear lead at this point, with New York City next down, and Chicago, San Francisco, Atlanta following. And in terms of states, California is got a pretty clear lead as well, with New York coming up behind again, and Florida and Texas and Pennsylvania, followed by Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio. And these comparative tables have proved very interesting and compelling. So the data and these maps are proving crucial to our emerging understanding of what's going on here, how it's happening, why it's happening, and the more that we look at it, the more analysis we do, the more tools we build to make it accessible, the more powerful it becomes. This is a living, thriving, fast-growing entrepreneurial ecosystem. It deserves and repays close study. We've just published our second State of the Crowdfunding Nation report, and you can get these at thecrowdfundingcentre.com/report. And if you register, we'll notify you when the next one's ready as well. And of course, you can get the other information that we mentioned, same address with /mapping on the end instead of /report. But there's much more to do, and the data is available for research and analysis, etc. To both universities and researchers, but also to other analysts and so on, together with a growing bunch of tools. So if you need information insights, we have them. If you need research access to take data sets for analysis, let us know. And importantly, on the 13th of November, we'll be unveiling the next stage in all this research at our third Crowdfunding Deep Impact Conference over in Sheffield in the UK, with the Business Innovation Network of universities which are worldwide. and we'll be delving into the roots of why crowdfunding has gone viral. Why is it suddenly spread in the way it has? How did that rapid spread as well as the rapid growth happen? And why? What are the mechanisms by which that's happened? And what are the implications of that, and the opportunities as well as threats and so on that's throwing up? We'll be looking at how it's throwing open the doors to entrepreneurs across the world, and how and why it's fundamentally changing venture creation, innovation, and investment forever. We'll look too at its impact on regeneration and job creation, and in each of these areas, what you can do about it, the opportunities and threats. And we'll deliver a new understanding of this new ecosystem that's thriving within the mainstream economy and destined to change it forever. As I'm sure you'll know by now, we are fascinated by and committed to the growth of crowdfunding and the crowd economy across the globe. So we're keen to work with people like you to help the world understand what an amazing and powerful phenomenon this really is. More than anything else, to explore its true potential for change, to empower people, creativity, and innovation to make the world a better place. So we look forward to working with you on this. I'm sure you'll have questions. I hope you do, and I hope to be available on Skype Live shortly to take them. But if not, as I say, do please email them to me, and I'll try and answer them. Meanwhile, thank you for listening, and I look forward to answering those questions. Thank you.